Hey everybody, Peach here, and today we're reviewing the RITFIT BLP02, aka the Gazelle Pro. So they call it a 3-in-1, a leg press, a hack squat, and a calf raise. As I will show you, of those three things, it does some things well and some things not so well. But here are a few disclaimers before we get started. Yes, the company did send me the product for free in exchange for the review, and I am being compensated for my time. However, as you will see, I will still give a 100% honest review. All right, now let's cover a few of the specifications. So it's 31.25 inches wide in the front, 48.2 inches wide in the rear, but it's 59.5 inches wide with the detachable weight horns on the sides. It's 86.4 inches long and 57.8 inches tall. So it does take up a lot more space than their cheaper, more compact model, the BLP01. This lower foot plate is 30 inches by 22.5 inches, and it has 4 adjustment options. The upper foot plate is approximately 16 inches by 25.5 inches, and it has 3 adjustment angles in addition to being able to lay flat for the hack squat. It has a weight capacity of 1,300 pounds as a dynamic load, but a static load of 2,000 pounds. It has 4 weight horns, 2 which are detachable on the sides and 2 which are not detachable underneath the sled. And it has resistance band pegs below and up top. So you would use the resistance band pegs on the bottom to add dynamic resistance as you press upwards, but use the ones on the top to do reverse banding, where it becomes easier as the sled travels downward. Now let's talk shipping and assembly. The product is delivered in 3 separate heavy boxes, and it was very easy to assemble. The instructions say it's a 2-man job, but I did it myself in about 3.5 to 4 hours. Okay, it's packed pretty well, but I did have a few scratches and scrapes, nothing major. Now this powder coat is not commercial quality, but it is consistent with all the other budget brands. Whether it's RITFIT, Major Fitness, Makolo, GNWD, Saidi, I have never received a product from any of those companies that was in 100% pristine condition, but it's the nature of dealing with these budget-friendly options. The powder coat is never going to be commercial quality, and they do save money by shipping in as few boxes as possible. So you should expect a few scratches. However, on this product, there were no major scuffs or scrapes, but as you're looking through this video here, you might see a few, but majority of those were installed by me from use. Now, as far as assembly, I did run into a few issues. Here they are. All right, issue number 1, the representation of the safety limiter tube in the assembly guide is incorrect. It indicates you should put it in like this with this large gap on top, but there's only one way to put it in. It must go in like this with the 3 holes on top, because this ridge right here prevents it from falling all the way through this hole. The other thing is, it indicates that there should be a piece of trim around this hole here, and there isn't one. So, as long as you know that, assembly should be a lot easier for you. All right, just a few other minor hiccups worth mentioning are there's plastic caps on these handrails on the bottom. They're not visible, but I do want to mention that this one right here was cracked at the very top. Same thing with the other side. Again, you can't see it, so it's not a big deal. Speaking of plastic caps, on the square tubing on the back side of the upper foot plate, there's square tubing caps here that aren't fully inserted. And the factory put those in, not me. And then lastly, this seat, the grommet is actually on top, and of course I would prefer it to be on the bottom and hidden. However, the threaded inserts didn't allow me to do that, because the threaded inserts make you put this seat on only one way. Okay, so those are the minor hiccups, but there was one major hiccup. Let's talk about it. So the major issue, which has since been resolved, was there is a scraping sound and too much play in the sled. This is what that looked like. Now the reason for that issue was the rollers were the incorrect size on the bottom of the guide rods on all four corners. So I reached out to RITFIT and this was their response. The bottom line is this first batch has the issue, and if you order a subsequent batch, you won't have that issue. So they sent me 4 new rollers and I swapped them out and it fixed the issue, and now it looks like this. So to identify whether or not you have a first batch, you shouldn't have a gap. It should look like this. Okay, if you have a first batch, it's going to look more like this. And you can see there's quite a big gap there. This will lead to the scraping sound and too much play in the sled. So, if you're unfortunate enough to get one of those first batches, just reach out to them and you can swap them out. This is how I did that. So if you do need to make this fix, it's not hard, okay? All we need to do is swap out the bottom rollers, only the bottom ones, with these larger rollers that they'll send you. So to do so, I took the old roller off and I stuck a screwdriver through that hole and just put a little pressure on it to bend the bracket just slightly so I could fit the new rollers inside. Then I put the bolt, nuts, and washers back on all 4 corners, and that's all there was to it, and it fixed the issue. All right, so we're gonna cover the leg press, the hack squat, and the calf raise, the range of motion on each one, all that good stuff here in a moment. But before I get into that, let me quickly cover some of the features I haven't covered yet, such as plate storage. So there's 4 weight horns on the rear of the machine. They are detachable, and they look like this. So there's a nice hard plastic covering with a nice rounded edge. It's about 7.5 inches of loadable space here, and I think these should hold up nicely over time. As far as these foam grips right here on the safety rails and down here on the safety rails, I don't think those are going to last forever. This is not commercial quality, and I think that they'll probably wear out or rip over time. Now, as far as the foot plate's concerned, this is actually harder to adjust than its predecessor, the BLP01, which had a pop pin that you could tighten or loosen. This is a little bit more difficult. So right now it's at its lowest pitch, and there's 4 adjustment positions. So to adjust it from the lowest to the next one, you lift this up, rock it back, and there you go. To get to the other 2 though, we have to take this band peg out and then line up these holes and then insert the band peg again. Okay, so that's position 3, and 4 would be right there. So it's not super quick, but then again, I honestly don't adjust the foot plate very often. I'm the only one working out down here, so it's not a big deal for me, but it might be a big deal for you. All right, so now we're going to cover the leg press, the hack squat, and calf raises, starting with the leg press. So here's the deal. Just for context, I am 5'11". In previous videos, I claimed to be 6 feet tall. So what happened? Well, when I was in the Army, we got measured all the time, at least for every single PT test. And I always measured at 6'1" or 6 foot. However, I just came back from a doctor's office and they measured me at 5'11", and I made them measure me twice. So now I'm out of the 6 foot tall club, unfortunately, and I bring that up so that we can talk about range of motion. Again, remember, I'm 5'11". Now, when we set up for the leg press, got to make sure that we take our back pad and we move it. If it was up there, we move it down here, and we take this pin, insert it to secure the pad, and then go ahead and execute the leg press. Now, with this foot plate at its most forward and this foot plate at its most forward, we actually have a gap of only 12.5 inches from the pad to the foot plate. Okay, and we still have 36 inches left on the guide rods. So, unless you are a literal giant or a toddler, you should have no range of motion issues. Okay, there's no way that you're going to have range of motion issues and have this bottom out before you get that full range of motion. However, on the hack squat, that's a different story. All right, so to transition from the leg press to the hack squat, we simply need to fold up this foot plate by pulling this pop pin, and then we move the back pad up top. So pull out that pin, and then we'll reinsert it up top. Okay, all done. Now, range of motion. So again, I am 5'11", and I guess what? I bottom out with this foot plate at its highest point still. Okay, its highest pitch. I am bottoming out before I get that full range of motion. I need about another 1.5 inches, and then I will achieve full range of motion. So what I did is I cut 2 layers of 3/4 inch thick horse stall mats, and I'm putting it on top of this foot plate. Okay, and now I do get a full range of motion. Other options are you could build something out of wood, you could put bumper plates there, you could fold up a yoga mat and just stand on that, whatever you got to do. But I think the horse stall mat idea is what's going to work best for me, because I only need another 1.5 inches. Okay, so with this modification, this machine is great for me. However, is it good for you? Let's discuss. So if we extrapolate here, using the basis that a 5'11" person needs 1.5 inches of horse stall mats with the foot plate at its highest setting to get a full range of motion, these are the heights that would require no modifications at all. So if you're any of these heights, you don't need horse stall mats. You'll get a full range of motion. Okay? That means that since most people are well under 6'1/2 inches, most people are going to need something to prop this up to thicken that foot plate. Okay? Now, this is not exact science. People of the same height might have different ranges of motion due to length to torso ratios and different degrees of flexibility, but generally speaking, this is what you'd have to add to the foot plate to get a full range of motion. Okay? And if you're 5'2", do you really want to build something that's 10.5 inches thick, probably out of wood, to get a full range of motion? Probably not. So this machine, the hack squat component of it, will serve you well if you're tall. If you're short, you might need a pass. All right, now let's round out this hack squat chapter by talking about rear-facing hack squats. So far we've only covered front-facing hack squats. Now we're going to use these pads up here. Instead of the pads down here, we're going to put our shoulders here and we're going to face the rear of the machine. Okay? Now, when we do that, guess what happens? Okay? We bottom out even worse. We bottom out 6 inches sooner because these pads up here are 6 inches taller than the pads down here. So the range of motion on rear-facing hack squats is even worse. And I don't think this is going to work for 99.9% of the population. Okay? Not going to happen. All right, now let's discuss the calf raise. So to set up for the calf raise, there are multiple ways to do this. The front-facing, the rear-facing, and the seated pressing upward. So let's start with front-facing. So we're going to put our shoulders right here on these pads and perform the calf raise. Now, there is no built-in or attachable, detachable calf block with this unit like other units offer. So, what I'm going to do is, you can go grab a calf block if you happen to have one, or just grab a 55-pound bumper plate. And since I have the horse stall mats here, this is not slipping down. So, it's a decent calf block in a pinch. It could be a little taller, but it'll do. All right, not bad. Not my favorite, but it is effective. All right, now let's try rear-facing calf raises. So I'm going to get in, but instead of putting my shoulders down here, I'm going to put it up here. And I'll put my feet way back here. I'm getting a better stretch. But it's not as smooth because I'm applying pressure here and it's providing leverage. Therefore, there's an uneven distribution across the sets of rollers. I think I'm getting more engagement on the top rollers and less engagement on the bottom rollers because I'm applying that leverage to the sled. So that's not my favorite. And then lastly, lying calf raises, where we're going to get into position like we're doing a leg press, but instead we're going to do calf raises. So I'll put my feet way down here to get that full stretch and exercise. Now, truth be told, that's my favorite way of doing this on this machine because not only are you getting that full stretch, but there's an even distribution across all 8 rollers on the sled. All right, so let's sum up. The leg press, it's great. No worries about range of motion. The foot plates are great, big size, great value. Front-facing hack squats. If you're short, this probably won't work for you. If you're somewhat tall, it will still work for you as long as you make the necessary modifications by beefing up that foot plate if you need to. And if you're really tall, it'll work great for you. Rear-facing hack squat. Nope, non-starter. Forget it. It's not any good. Front-facing calf raise. It's good. A calf block will make it better. Rear-facing calf raises. Not the best. Uneven distribution of the rollers. And then lying pressing upwards calf raises. My favorite one. Works great. No calf block required. All right, the RITFIT Gazelle Pro. Now, if you think that this product is right for you, please consider making that purchase via my shopping link located down in the video description below. And save big money, don't pay full price, with my unique promo code, also located down in the video description below. When you shop via that link, it costs you nothing extra, and it helps support the channel. All right, that does it for this episode, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. So, be sure to subscribe to the channel to be alerted the moment the next episode drops.